So the practice says that we get to show up. We're super privileged. We get to show up and do something that hasn't been done before. Can we develop good taste? Can we develop a pattern? Can we understand genre in a way that when other people see it who are informed, they understand what we were after? Can we embrace that feeling that hits us just before we ship that says, oh, it's not ready yet, and still ship it? Because being able to put work we're proud of into the world, regardless of whether it's guaranteed to work or not, is the key. There's in the US, a hackneyed expression, if you knew you could not fail, what would you do? And it's a ridiculous question because you should just game it by, picking invisibility and flight and all this other stuff. A better question is, what would you do if you knew you were going to fail? What would be worth doing even if you were sure it wasn't going to work? And once we can embrace that, then we're much more likely, paradoxically, to make things that actually work. And when we think about the great insights in whether it's in business or in music or anything else, there are always things that no one expected. All bestsellers are surprise bestsellers because the obvious bestsellers don't work.
That's interesting. And there's quite a few things there. Like, how much of it is, when you talk about genre, of finding your audience, but as you say, like finding your audience, but being operating at the fringes of it, exploring the fringes, the boundaries, the blurred lines?
So the smallest viable audience is the key to unlocking all of this. I'm interviewing Cory Doctorow later today. Cory Doctorow is one of the great public intellectuals of our time, an important science fiction author, and almost no one has heard of him. 99% of the people who speak English have never read a word he wrote.
No,
and
I
yet,
can't say I have.
And yet, it's enough. It's enough to make him a bestseller. It's enough to make his Kickstarter super successful. It's enough because 1% of the 2 billion people who speak English is a lot of people. It's enough. And instead of saying, let me seek out the people who don't get the joke, let me seek out the people who don't understand me, let me seek out the non-believers, you're going to spend your whole day trying to persuade people to get the joke that they don't want to get. Instead, if we begin with the smallest viable audience, that group of people who share the same taste we share, who want to go where we are going, they become fuel for us to become a singular, peculiar entity, not a run-of-the-mill generic thing.
And it's interesting because like that concept isn't incredibly new thinking, but it feels like it's still such a huge stumbling block for people trying to create a business or create a movement. Why do you think we're so stuck in a way of not embracing that concept, that fundamental concept?
Well, it's funny because my first reaction when you said that was, damn straight it's new thinking. I coined the term and people push back on me every time I talk about it. But then I realized that the real point is seeking new thinking is a problem. And I shouldn't care about whether it's new or not. What we need to seek isn't something where we can say, I invented this, but where we can show up and show up and show up until the people who are resisting the idea say, oh, that was obvious. That is when we've done the thing that is really useful, because every idea that's accepted is then perceived to be obvious, right? That it was obvious that someone was going to invent Facebook, and it was obvious that Hamilton was going to get made. How could it not be? But at the beginning, there were a lot of skeptics. So why do people push back and minimize it? They like to use the phrase niche down. 2 negative terms pushed next to each other, niche down. How about specific up? Because that's what we're talking about, is being extremely specific so you can be the best in the world at what you do. If you're going to be generic, you can't be the best at it because everyone does it. But if you can be specific, the person who's looking for what you do will find you.